Here we go, our first episode of Headgears to Handshakes. I'm here with Mike Moyer. Just like we do with any podcast, we got to start off with a handshake. At the end of the podcast, I'm going to go ahead and rank his handshake. I got a lot to think about. That's my boss. It was a firm handshake. So we'll see what that rating is. Well, we're here with Mike Moyer. He's the executive director of the NWCA. I think there's a lot of questions on what he does exactly, what the NWCA stands for, and how WIBN got started. So before we get into that, let's just talk a little about you as a person and as a wrestler. What got you into the sport? What kept you in the sport?
I was sort of that kid that was picked last in phys ed class. Fortunately, my dad was a wrestling coach, and in second grade got me involved in a sport that someone with average to maybe a little below average athletic ability could still have some success in. So wrestled for my dad through high school, wrestled at Westchester State College back in the, graduated there in 1983. Coached for 1 year at Chowan Junior College in Murfreesboro, North Carolina, and 10 years at George Mason University as head coach.
And you guys actually won a championship at George Mason, if I'm remembering correctly, right?
We did have some success. We had 4 All-Americans. We had a 2-time All-American and 2 one-time All-Americans there. And we took 27 wrestlers to the NCAA championships, and we had a good competitive programs.
Well, let's talk about you as a coach. What was one of your favorite memories as a coach, or something you look back on and are really happy that you got to experience?
Yeah, I'm from a family of educators, and for me, it was always about just helping to prepare young people for success in life. We had an underfunded program. We had 3.5 scholarships. This is back in the 80s. And, you learn to measure success in different ways. And just the idea of helping those young men become the best version of themselves, go out in the real world and become wildly successful. And I've heard many coaches say, one of the things that matters the most is what becomes of your athletes 10 years after they graduate, and that would absolutely be the case for me. I keep in touch with those, with most all of them today. We have reunions, we get back together, and it's, the stories get embellished a little bit, but nevertheless, there's a lot of great stories.
Awesome. You still help out a lot with that program. I think you were put in the Hall of Fame not too long ago. Is that correct?
Sure. I had the good fortune of going in the Hall of Fame, and I'll tell you, I was a 24-year-old Division I wrestling coach, and I would be quick to say when I see some of those wrestlers in my first couple of years, the first thing I do is apologize to them. One of the things, in all fairness and truthfulness, that motivates me in all the coaching development that we do is, no 24-year-old coach should get started that way. I think providing them with some good fundamentals, as I reflect back, I would certainly have done quite a few things a little bit differently knowing what I know today.
Well, I think that's a good segue into what you guys do here at the NWCA. Mm-hmm. What exactly is the NWCA? What do you guys do? What's the foundation?
Sure. So the National Wrestling Coaches Association is actually 98 years old. It's the oldest only wrestling organization in America. We have about 16,000 members, mostly high school and college coaches. One of the things that's unique about the NWCA is we're the only organization that operates exclusively in the education space. So our focus is on middle school, high school, and college wrestling coaches. And we have 3 core competencies. The cornerstone of what we do is coaching development. And we really focus on what we call the CEO skills. I mean, there's lots of technical, tactical videos and stuff out on the internet, but we really focus on those skills that are unique to coaches that work in and around the educational environment. Recruitment, retention, academic performance, we talk a lot of times about the 4 R's, about building relationships, being relevant, generating revenue, and being realistic about expectations. And depending what level you coach at, those things can be weighted differently. But developing transformational coaches in that education space is really the cornerstone of what we do. The second competency is what we call student wrestler well-being. We've done a lot in the area of weight management. We've taken what was for a long time sort of the Achilles heel of our sport, unhealthy weight loss, and today wrestling's widely considered the ultimate physical fitness sport by how scientifically we've become. We've done a lot in the area of connecting our wrestlers with careers, which is a differentiating factor, not just of the NWCA within the wrestling ecosystem, but in comparison with wrestling with all other sports that's out there. And then the third area would be advocacy. And we spend a lot of time advocating with governing bodies, high school and college governing bodies, for favorable rules and regulations that would help grow our sport. And I think one of our greatest accomplishments is we've helped to establish 434 new college wrestling programs, men's and women's, since 2000. That comes on the heels of having lost over 550 in the previous 30 years. So we're making a comeback. We're not all the way back, but we're certainly making a comeback. And one of the many benefits of that success is historically we've developed teachers and coaches through the intercollegiate system. So you go to college, you get an education degree, you wrestle, you graduate, become a high school or college coach. So as a result of that, we've come a long way in replenishing the depleted pool, high school and college coaches that resulted from that valley we experienced.
Yeah, and I want to come back to that, but I want to hit the education first.
Sure.
I've just been here for a little bit, and I see all the fires you're putting out and a lot of problems being solved. It's really impressive. I think there's a lot of things that people don't see that you guys are dealing with, and again, a lot of this stuff is it's private, and you guys are fixing a lot of big issues just regularly. I don't know if this is one of the few times I've seen you not on your phone trying to solve something for somebody. So I think there's a lot of successes, just even for me, just being here this little bit of seeing that I think people don't see. But I want to talk about the education, primarily because I got an education from you guys.
Sure.
I was part of the Leadership Academy, and I can say firsthand, and I think anyone that's been through that can tell you that you don't know what you're doing until you've been through that. Sure. And it did a couple things for me personally. One was I had a great mentor, so I had somebody I can call that was a head coach outside of somebody that coached me directly, and then connections. And again, everything in between, from training plans to the problems you're going to see to how to talk to an AD, how to interview. But those connections have really lasted me a lifetime. Some in just the Leadership Academy, I was there with Valeni. That's helped me become really close with him. It's been easy to schedule with him. I had Garrett Kiley, who we ended up hiring on. He ended up being an associate head coach at Northern Colorado for a while. I mean, there's people in all aspects and all divisions that it's been great to be connected with. That if I didn't take part in the Leadership Academy, I would have never had these connections, and they helped me.
Sure.
Talking about education, I mean, what are some things you would tell a coach maybe considering the Leadership Academy or considering going to the NWCA convention?
Sure. Well, every year the NWCA covers all expenses for upwards to 150 men's and women's intercollegiate head and assistant college coaches to go through this comprehensive training program. We cover the flight, the lodging, the meals, the tuition, all covered by very generous donors. Because what we discovered is the first 10 years I was with the NWCA, we didn't really have a comprehensive program in place. And we were just losing. On our best years, we lost half as many programs as we started. In our worst years, we lost more programs than we started. It wasn't until we really started investing heavily in coaching development that our fortune changed. And it's why we do what we do. And we now have actually a version of that for high school coaches. The college version is 2 days. The high school version is a 1-day, 4-hour course. The coaches have to get themselves to the workshop. But once they're there, there's no cost. We've made the decision we're never going to let cost be a barrier to developing transformational coaches. But as important as anything that I think the coaches learn in those workshops, you just mentioned it, it's you get to build a relationship with a veteran coach. And that's so important because when you're coaching and you feel like you're in quicksand or you feel like you're overwhelmed, you have that person you can reach out to. At the high school level, the average tenure of a coach in all sports other than football and basketball is just 3 or 4 years. And we need to change that. And the way you change that is by giving coaches a better start, giving them more tools and resources when they get started, providing them with a mentor so they have someone they can reach out to on an as-need basis. The challenge with it is a lot more expensive doing those in-person workshops, but it's just not the same trying to do them virtually. And so our goal at the high school level, try to do one of those in every state every year. At the college level, we do one in May. We do one on the front end of our convention. We want to always get 100 to 150 coaches through that training. And if we can find more funding one day, I'd like to be able to do 200 of them because we've been starting between probably 30 and 40 new college programs a year. And And it's been a challenge keeping pace with making sure we have a deep pool of well-trained coaches to lead and sustain those programs.
Yeah, and I think when you're doing that and you're trying to fill these roles, if they can't handle it and it gets shut down, it's almost impossible to bring it back. So you have to have them prepared when they enter these roles, whether it's high school or college, that they keep it alive and keep it thriving, because it's one thing to get it started, and that's hard, and I think you guys are winning a lot of those fights. But it's hard to, it's almost impossible to bring something back from the dead.
It really is. And well, part of our value proposition when we meet with a college president and an athletic director is we provide them a pool of coaches. They have no obligation to pick from our pool, but I don't know of any other coaches association that does that. And we're just trying to make it as easy as possible. Then they'll go out of their way to tell their peers, hey, work with the wrestling community. They're very organized. They've got it together, and it sort of feeds from there.
Well, that's great. I mean, what are some of these conversations like? Are you talking with the presidents? Are you talking with the athletic directors?
I spend most of my day talking with college presidents, athletic directors. Was really interesting, and this is sort of a segue into another thing we do that's very unique, but Wrestlers in Business Network, every sport, rightfully so, can say they're in the business of providing a great sport experience to prepare young people for success in life, and certainly wrestling is no different. But what differentiates wrestling from any other sport that I know is we've taken it one step further, and we actually, through an operating division, Wrestlers in Business Network, our value proposition to any wrestler that steps on a mat, it doesn't matter if they ever wrestled a varsity match or JV match, doesn't make a difference. We want to help them get one of four places. We want to help them get to college. We want to help them get to a trade. We want to help them get to the military. We want to help them just find a career. So when I used to speak with college presidents, I'd give this nice PowerPoint presentation. This was before Wrestlers in Business Network, and many times they would say, well, Mike, that's a nice presentation. We have 26 sports here. I'm sorry that wrestling's not one of them, but all these sports do a wonderful job in preparing these young people for success in life. Good luck, and they showed me the tour. Now our response to that is, well, Mr. and Mrs. President, you're right about that. Wrestling does all those things like other sports, but we've taken it one step further. We now connect in a very intentional way our wrestlers with these careers. So you should know that if you had a wrestling program here, it is a gateway for bringing companies like our partners on campus, because these colleges get measured to a large extent based on the quality and quantity of jobs that all of their students get. So if it's the wrestling coach, that's the one person on campus that's going out of his or her way to bring these companies on campus, because we're fine at these companies. Of course we want them recruiting wrestlers, but if they start recruiting the other athletes in the athletic department, that's good by us. But it's something that differentiates wrestling. In sales, they always tell you want to be first, best, or different. And this Wrestlers in Business concept is something that makes us first, best, and different. And we're so grateful to have someone like you is going to be leading that. You certainly understand the coaching part. You've been a transformational coach. You've been transitioning your wrestlers into these careers. No one would know better how to do this because you've been doing it, as long as you've been coaching.
Well,
so it's something we're really excited about, and I think it can take our organization it'll bring companies. Just in the last 3 years, it's brought over 100 mainstream companies into our sport. They've never been part of our sport. So if we can become a reliable source of talent to these companies, and by the way, we already have partners like the Hershey Company, we have Paycom, we have 84 Lumber, we have the Marine Corps, and we're adding more and more partners every day. I mean, in this new world of intercollegiate athletics that we have, think of how those companies could help us in other ways if we can become a reliable source of talent to them.
I think that's great, and I mean, that's what sold me on it, right? Mm-hmm. And the one thing you keep saying to me, and you've said it over and over again, is it's not a charity, but it is that everybody wins, right? Sure. Everybody wins if there's complete buy-in. Mm-hmm. And that goes from the coaches, that goes from the athletes joining, that goes from the companies investing in the best employees they can possibly get. What do you think people's reservation are, if you've ever had any reservations? Have you ever explained it and somebody was scratching their head, or is it one of those things where once they hear it, they get it? It's
really just about having an opportunity to explain it and trying to reach the critical masses. It's more about just the awareness of it. Like, what coach as part of the recruiting pitch to a parent or the wrestlers to say, look at these 100 companies we work with to provide internships for our wrestlers in the summertime. Or look at what our last 10 graduates are doing today as a result of my intentional efforts as a coach to connect your son or daughter with these career opportunities. I mean, it's like apple pie and ice cream. Who could be opposed to that? But I think where our coaches, and this goes back to why we call our coaching development programs CEO Leadership Academies, we're trying to get coaches to think of themselves as the CEO of their program. And CEOs, number one, can't be an expert at everything, nor can they have the time to do everything that needs to be done. So we're trying to teach coaches how to create an army of volunteers around them to do all of these CEO type things. And so one of these things would be, it's one thing to just get your high school or college wrestlers registered for a career fair. It's another thing to designate somebody from within your sphere of influence to be responsible for preparing them for interviews, reviewing their resumes. I think every coach, every freshman on every team, high school or college should have a resume ready to go. And the more they start thinking about their careers, the more likely they are to study a little bit extra harder and do a little extra, credit homework, and all of those things just lead to good outcomes for our sport.
And I think when it comes to getting jobs, I think maybe there's this misconception that of who it's for. It's really for every wrestler. It's for the guy graduated high school and is ready to enter the workforce, to the guy that's a 4.0 GPA that wants to get an internship with one of the best financial companies there is in the country,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, we have a partner like Deloitte. Deloitte has participated in our virtual career fairs. What they've told us is they love college athletes, but if you're not in their pipeline the summer after your sophomore year, you don't get in their pipeline. Like for a lot of these really good companies, you can't wait till you just came back from the NCAA championships to say, okay, what am I going to do with my career? You got to get in there early. And I would make the argument that just the practice of interviewing and putting a resume together and interacting with these business leaders of these partners is all good stuff. And these internships while you're in college, it's as much about learning what you don't want to do as what you do want to do. What happens so often is these young men and women who are athletes, they graduate from college, the first 3 jobs they get they don't like because they haven't had any experiences. The next thing you know, they're 18 months into their career, they're 0 for 3, and then it starts getting hard to get a job. So these internships are as much about learning what you don't want to do as what you do want to do, and we just want to make sure that we're heightening the awareness to make sure that our coaches and our high school and college wrestlers know that these opportunities are even out there. Some of our partners are looking for the high school wrestler that's not going to college. We're forging relationships with the International Carpenters Union and Boilermakers and the Marine Corps. We have other partners looking for college wrestlers for internships while they're in college and entry-level positions when they graduate. Some of our partners are looking for both. So we have something for everybody. We need to get the awareness out there so more of our young men and women take advantage of it.
I think that's exactly right. Awareness is number one. I think just the reason that we're such great employees is that laser focused. And when they're in college or they're in high school, they're just thinking about that next step forward. And hopefully we can do a good job of educating them on how to look ahead, how to plan for the future, because we've talked about this. 1% of people past the age of 40 are making a living with wrestling.
That's right.
So we want to get these people further ahead where they're making money, they're doing what they love to do, and that way they're in a position earlier on to give back to wrestling. And so really, it's not a charity. We're trying to be the charity that's giving back, right?
Sure.
And I think just the more people we can have given to the ecosystem and that we can put in a position to give back to the ecosystem, the better off wrestling will be.
Sure.
And I know we're going into some challenging times. The last post you made on Twitter was a month and 1 day ago, and it was just talking about how we're resilient, how we know tough times are ahead, but wrestlers can get through it. I mean, what is it that you think we have to look forward to, and maybe why is Wrestling and Business Network the answer?
Sure. Well, obviously, the intercollegiate landscape has been turned upside down on its head. I think most people are aware of this NCAA versus House settlement, this $2.8 billion settlement that was just approved by a judge. And one of the biggest implications of that is athletic departments now, primarily at the Division I level, may share up to $20.5 million of their revenue with the athletes. Well, the truth of the matter is nobody's got $20.5 million laying around. it's a little bit easier for the Power Four schools, in the Big Ten and the SEC than it is for the mid-majors, but it's not easy for anybody. And it's going to be more important. I think the Olympic sports that are going to have the brightest future are going to be the sports that have a corporate support structure across the country and coaches with really solid CEO skills. And fortunately, because of the trials and tribulations that our sport's been through over the last 30 or 40 years, like you think about it, from 1972 to 1999, we lost over 550 college wrestling programs. How did we respond? We responded by adding 434 back. We were bounced out of the Olympics. How did we respond? We came back. We're a world power in the men's and women's international scene. We had those weight loss related accidents back in the late 1990s. How did we respond? Today we're widely regarded as one of the premier physical fitness sports and the only sport that I'm aware of that uses body composition and hydration and weight to help athletes maximize their performance. And these are skills that help these young people live healthy lives the rest of their lives. So wrestlers are built to do tough things. And as challenging as these times are going to be, the Olympic sports are going to have to supplement their budgets more so than ever before. What we have going for us is our coaches are used to doing that. And we don't run from problems, we sprint to them. And we're going to figure out a way to thrive in this new world. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. In fact, this Wrestlers in Business Network concept, I spend a lot of time advocating on behalf of wrestling and all the Olympic sports down in Capitol Hill, members of Congress. And it's so nice to be able to say, you keep talking about this educationally based mission. Tell me what you mean by that. And what a great story Wrestlers in Business Network is to tell. We don't just say what we're going to do, we can say what we're actually doing. And it resonates. It really resonates with people down in Congress at the highest levels. And we're fortunate that we started this, 15 years ago. And I wish we started it 50 years ago. But we're a lot further ahead than most. But now's not the time to take our foot off the gas pedal. We need to continue in this track we're on, and we just need to get better at what we're doing.
Yeah, one thing I always say is money and influence. And I think Wrestlers in Business Network, when it's really rolling, now you need a little fuel to get there, don't get me wrong. But when it's really rolling, you're getting both of those things. And that's the end of the day, you can ask any head coach, anybody, what's going to help keep you alive and keep you flourishing. And it's those two things.
We can get to the top of almost any industry in one or two phone calls. It is amazing who we have in our wrestling family. And a lot of people, and a lot of this is confidential, so I can't share it, but we've been in the middle of some unbelievable deals. We have a lot of our very generous donors are private equity and venture capitalists, and we have a lot of other, donors that are entrepreneurs that are starting companies. And it literally, we just have to make it easier for wrestling people to do business with each other. And that's sort of the two-pronged approach of Wrestlers in Business Network. The one is the career advancement piece. The other piece is the business development piece. I own a roofing company and you own a building and you need a new roof. Why not do business with a wrestler? And as we can both grow our businesses, we can be more philanthropic back to whatever our favorite wrestling charities might be. So there's that piece. There's the career advancement piece. Again, it's like ice cream and apple pie. Who could be against something like this?
That's a great example.
I'm more for the ice cream than the apple pie. But
I'm getting both.
Yeah.
I'm throwing both on the plate. Let me have it.
Getting hungry talking about it.
Yep. No, I like I said, that really is what attracted me to the position. Is I really thought we could make a big impact as long as we have full buy-in. I think everybody should have a membership. There's nobody in the wrestling world that shouldn't have a membership. No matter what, on any level, every high school, every college kid should join the Career Center. That's only going to help us. That's going to help us set them up with internships, careers. It's going to help us get organizations outside of wrestling involved in wrestling, high-tier organizations and companies, and so really, I'm looking forward to that catching on. I think it's just, what are we waiting on?
Sure. Well, if you're a high school or college wrestler, the membership's free. Mm-hmm. So just go to wrestlersinbusiness.org. And sign up for your free student membership. And even once you graduate, the membership's a whopping $50. It'd be the best $50 that you could ever spend. To your point, we have 350,000 high school boys and girls that wrestle in high school. We have 14,000 or so college men and women competing across the country. Every one of them should be a member of Wrestlers in Business Network. They should all have a profile in our Career Center. And the more profiles we get in there, the more attractive it becomes to these corporate partners. That they love wrestlers for this reason. They know that wrestlers perform at a high level under very adverse conditions. And not that other athletes, don't do very well in the business world, but, a lot of these companies, these partners we have are wrestling people, so they have an appreciation for what our sport's about and what it represents, and we just have to make it easier for those connections to happen.
So one thing I was told to ask is, if you're not investing money, what's one way that you can help the wrestling mission, whether it be WIBN or the NWCA? It's
time, talent, and treasure. Everybody's got one or more of those three. We need an army of volunteers. If I could wave a wand, I'd like to have a Wrestler in Business chapter in every region across the country. Those chapters are like the glue that holds the wrestling ecosystem together. Whether it's the Hall of Fame, the USA Wrestling, the Beat the Streets, all these organizations within the Wrestlers in Business Network is the one organization that can serve all of them well. So if we had these chapters and we had a president, because you're just one person, right? You're one person. There's 350,000 high school wrestlers, and there's 50,000 coaches out there in that education space. So we need an army of volunteers, and these chapters are just kind of like Rotary clubs. But what everybody has in common is a common love for the sport of wrestling. It could be the parent of a wrestler. It could be a wrestling fan. It could be someone that wrestled in 8th grade. Just as long as you have an appreciation and a love for the sport of wrestling, you can become a member. And where we don't have a chapter, help us get a chapter started. And all we need is 12 to 15 business leaders, men and women, who are willing to serve on a chapter board and jump on a call for 45 minutes, and we'll walk them through how to get started.
Okay, so who do they reach out to? Let's say I'm in a place, I look it up, my chapter's not there. Yeah. What's my next step?
They're going to call you. They're going to call you right here in the Manheim office, and you and I are going to, we have a vast donor network around the country. And so a lot of times you'll get a group of business leaders in Phoenix, Arizona will say, well, there's 7 or 8 of us. We'd like to get a chapter started. We really like to have 12 to 15 prospective board members that are willing to get a new chapter. So you and I will get together and we'll leverage our networks. And between everybody, we try to come up with that 12 to 15 board number. And then we jump on a Zoom. We walk everybody through how this works. I've been doing this now for a long time. I've never had a group of people at the end of that say anything other than, of course, we're going to do this. Mm-hmm. And we just need to get chapters up and running around the country. Some of the chapters we currently have, the boards need to be fortified just a bit. But we have a really good recipe. I mean, we have a rinse and repeat recipe. We just need volunteers around the country to step up. And as we said earlier, with what's going on in intercollegiate athletics, we can't get these chapters started fast enough.
Yeah, but I don't want you to go until you tell me at least one success story where an athlete came up through the WIBN.
One success story? Well, there's a lot of success stories. There's a young man, Josh Harkless, out there. His dad's actually done some programming for us, but Josh wrestles at RIT, was All-American last year, and Josh is, we connected him with Amentum. It's a big international defense contractor. And Josh is a mechanical engineer. And to this day, every time I talk to Josh, that was an unbelievable experience. And it was easy to do. I mean, what company out there isn't looking for some wrestler that's got a mechanical engineering degree? But we've got wrestlers that have gone into the Marine Corps. We've got Matt Marcinelli, who runs our Pittsburgh WIBN chapter. His son last year graduated from Harvard, and what did he do? Went into the Marine Corps. And so we've got plenty of success stories out there. There just needs to be a lot more.
Well, I'm excited. We're going to make a lot more. I have no doubt in that. I think when people see this and they understand what we're doing, sure, if they have questions, they can reach out to me. But I think, like I said, like you said, it's ice cream and apple pie. So I think we'll end it at that. This was episode 1, and look forward to seeing you some more.